Ma's House podcast. I'm your host, Hunter Begun, and I'm here with our current exhibiting artist, Rebekah Phoenix Wise, who is a photographer. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
Glad to hear it. Could you give us a little overview about your art and maybe a little about your show, just a little bit before we really get into it?
Okay. I am a photographer. I do portraits, events, trying to get into like personal branding and things like that. I'm also a sports photographer. My show currently is all about Shinnecock. I'm a Shinnecock tribal member, and I am actually the director of communications for the tribe. So the photos that I are on display are pretty much all photos I took kind of for work. It's work and passion.
And that show's on viewing now at Ma's House. It's called Living Histories, Contemporary Shinnecock Stories Honoring Tradition. It's a solo show,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. And it's on view until February 27th, I believe,
No.
which is by private appointment.
April.
Just yeah, April. Did I say
You
April?
said
Did I say February?
February.
Oh, my bad. My bad, everybody. April. It would already be over by now. No, April 27th, right after 420.
Yep.
Go on by, say hello
Yep.
to Ma's house. Maybe go get a edible from Long Beach Harvest and then head over to Ma's house and see what you see.
Little Beach Harvest.
Could be a good time. Little Beach, Long Beach Harvest.
Little Beach Harvest, the tribe, first, I think they say it's Long Island's first tribally owned dispensary.
I still need to go.
You haven't
Keep
gone?
telling me I need to get down there.
I said, Hunter, I'll take you
And
down
see what
there.
they
I'll
got.
take you down there. I'll give you a
Yeah.
tour. I'll tell you what all the good stuff is.
Yeah, I don't really want the good stuff. I want the mid stuff. I want the low, the weaks. I want the really weak
I
stuff.
think they got some weak stuff in there.
Yeah, good. Cause I'm not built like that anymore.
Ooh.
I'm gonna start seeing ghosts and demons. If I do anything too strong. All right, so I guess now we get into the questions.
Okay.
So you mentioned sports photography already, and someone who loves sports. Can you tell us, maybe give us a little insight of how you started doing that and why you like it so much?
So I started taking photos because I was asked to. Like I said, I'm the communication director for the tribe, and one of the things that I like to do is go to community events, and just take photos. I'm sure the tribe wanted me to take like 2 photos at something, and it really spiraled. But the our youth go to a public high school, and last year I think the boys basketball team, let's say if there was 9 members of the team, 7 of them were boys from Shinnecock. And so they won something. I think they were like they had a really good run last year, and the trustees honored them with something. I don't know, that I had to go down to the to the tribal offices to like take pictures of the boys on the team because we like gave them a present or something. And when I was down there, the captain of the team asked me to come to their next basketball game. I think they had won like the county champions, and then it was just leading up to Final Four at that point. And I just kind of think that I am legally required to show up to a child's event and take photos of it if they ask me to. So that's how it feels to me. It feels like it's the law. So I went to one of the basketball games. The photos really weren't that great. And then I was like, I got to figure out how to do better. And, I went to a couple more games, and then they went to the Final Four, the New York State Final Four for high school. So I went up there with them for that. I pretty much only take basketball photos. Or actually, that's a lie. I went to a lacrosse game once, a professional lacrosse game, and I brought my camera and I just took some photos there too, and that was really fun. But that's how I got into it. The boys asked me to, so why not? And then this season, I didn't go to a lot of the games this season in the beginning, and then one of their moms messaged me like, "Can you please go to his game?" And then every once in a while, one of them is like, "Hey, can you come to our next game? It's an important game for us." So I go to those games, and I just think it's really fun. Specifically basketball, I just think because of like the crowd and stuff. I'm not really into sports, although I do like basketball. The more I go to the games, the more I really get into it. But I just kind of like all the energy, all the action. It's a interesting challenge rather than like normal event photography, just because it happens so fast. You kind of don't know what's going on. So I don't know, I'm just, really digging the sports photography, and I kind of just want to do more. Like, listen, if a professional team, if a college team is like, hey, do you want to be our photographer? I would never say no to that. That sounds so fun. So,
Yeah, honestly, sports photography is really cool. Some of the greatest moments ever captured on
yeah,
with photos. It's awesome. I just think of like there's so many amazing basketball photos flying
yeah,
around, especially of like Kobe and LeBron. They're just beat transcended basketball,
hmm,
honestly. Um,
yeah.
and I love basketball personally,
Yeah,
so
I'm like I said,
it's pretty
I'm getting very into basketball the more I go to the games. Yeah, so
awesome.
like yeah, basketball photos are just so interesting sometimes. One of the last games I went to, one of the boys like did a dunk, and I mean they every once in a while they dunk a lot, but he dunked and it was crazy. And I was standing next to one of the security guards, and he was like, "Rebecca, you got that? I bet you got that, right?" And I was like, I got that." And so like there was two other photographers there, but I don't think. Actually, I think there was only one photographer at that game, and her camera just kind of isn't as high quality as mine. So, like, I'm sure she also got pictures of that like insane looking dunk, but I just, I don't know, I think mine just like came out really well because I've been really working on, how to take sports photos because that's a whole different world than like normal events, honestly.
Hmm. Do you use the sport mode on the camera, or do your cameras not even come with that anymore?
No, my camera I think probably does. But I work pretty much exclusively in manual mode. So,
Hmm.
I'm not really sure how well the the sports mode would work. Um, but I shoot in manual, so like I'm picking the aperture and the shutter speed and the ISO and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Full manual,
Yeah,
baby.
I think the sport mode just like makes it go really fast. The
Yeah,
shutter
I
speed.
think it picks a shutter speed, but like I'm worried it will like try to mess with my aperture, and it's like no,
Yeah.
it's dark in gyms. Like to the naked, like if you're in a high school gym, you're like, oh, this is well lit, and then you bring out a camera and you're like, this is the worst lit. I might as well be outside in the dark.
Hmm.
Because the lighting is just like not very good in there. So, like, probably sports mode would be okay if I was like outside on a sunny day, but I'm not outside on a sunny day. I'm in a small town high school basketball gym, so lighting's terrible.
One more question before we move
Mhm.
on. Have you ever been to an NBA game?
I have not recently, not since I got into basketball, but I mean into photography, but I have gone to a
Hmm.
professional basketball game.
The Knicks are really good this
I
year,
know, I've heard.
and if you go, I think at this point you'd really enjoy going to an MSG game to see like to relive like that. You could end up being a photographer at MSG.
True.
That could be awesome.
True. I'm trying to get in with the Nassau Coliseum because they play the
Mm,
Nets. Their G League team plays out of Nassau Coliseum.
really, I did not know
Yeah.
that. I've
So
only known about the Westchester
yeah.
Knicks.
So I guess they're called the Long Island Nets or something like that. They play out of Nassau Coliseum, and that is where I went to the lacrosse game. And I brought my
Oh.
camera stuff, and the security like didn't care at all. That I was just like in the stands, which it's not Nassau Coliseum is really small, but like I was in the stands with my camera, with my giant camera taking photos, and like no one cared. And then I was down on the floor because I was with the Boys and Girls Club. They were doing something, and so we were down on the floor right next to the glass, and like the manager was like, I don't know, we were standing by the glass. Some guy got slammed into the wall because it was a lacrosse game, and the manager was like, "Oh, did you get a photo of that? I love it when they do that." And I was like, "Oh, they don't care at all that I'm down here." I was like standing next to their official photographer. They didn't
Hmm.
care in the slightest that I was down there. So
Listen, does being the communications director for the tribe help you get into anywhere to take photos that most people wouldn't be able to get into?
I made myself a press pass, which I think I'm allowed to do because who else would give me the press pass other than me? I'm the communication director. I'm the only person in the department, so I did make myself a press pass, and I have used it to get into the championship games for the high school. Because once you get to
Mm-hmm.
like the playoffs, you have to pay for those, and they're
Yeah.
only like $8. But I have pulled out my press pass, and then they just let me in, and then they let me stand on the sidelines.
Mm, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I know this is a stupid thought, but you should try to sneak into like a really famous person's concert
Oh,
and just with that,
yeah. Maybe.
it could be kind of fun. I have a lot of experience sneaking into concerts.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I
Uh,
might try to get into a basketball game or something. Like, listen,
yeah, you might be able
and
to.
those Long Island Nets tickets are cheap. Like the Islanders, well, hockey is like more expensive because like that's professional there. The Islanders play at Nassau Coliseum, and they're like the professional league, but the G League, and then the like I said, the lacrosse team, and there was no question. Like it was so funny when I was there with the kids. We were in the stadium, and then the kids like left. Like we were in the stands. The kids left to go get changed, and then someone else was like messaged me and was like, "Hey, we're down on the floor. Come meet us." And they genuinely just let me walk into the onto the like
Hmm.
next to the ice or next to the playing field or whatever. No one stopped. I did not have my badge with me, and I was just like had a backpack and a
Mm.
camera, and they were like, "Sure, be on the VIP area." It was very interesting.
Come on down.
Yeah,
That is
let me
interesting.
not badmouth Nassau Coliseum because I want them to hire me. So
It's not a bad mouth. They seem nice. They seem like the security knew you weren't a
yeah,
threat.
no,
Like, oh,
exactly. I was not a
she's
threat.
not a threat. Yeah, just nice. So, did you? I know you went to college. Where did you go, and what did you major in at the time?
I went to Stony Brook University on at Stony Brook on Long Island, and I majored in cinema and cultural studies with a minor in digital art.
Hmm. Okay, it's interesting.
Yep.
How did that translate to what you do now?
I don't think it did. Um,
At all? That's surprising.
I don't know. Like, not the cinema and cultural studies part. That was a lot of Um, I don't know, it was kinda like being an English major, but it was movies and stuff.
Oh. Hmm.
We just talked about stuff. We would watch a movie, and then I would write a 10-page essay making stuff up about the movie and the themes and how you could view it. And then, the digital art, maybe a little bit, because I'm also a graphic designer. Like, I've done that for work as a paycheck, like, done graphic design. And so, um, I think and I did a little bit of that at Stony Brook. Stony Brook didn't have a graphic design program, which is why I was the cinema studies major. Digital art was just like the closest I could get to graphic design, and that was only a minor. Um, but I think like having the skills of knowing how to use Adobe programs was probably helpful. You know, like I use Adobe
Mm-hmm.
to edit, and having just been playing in Photoshop for since I was in high school, was probably helpful. I don't use Photoshop for photo editing. I use Lightroom, but like, I
Lightroom.
already had it, and I like knew what it was, and I guess that graphic design part of it did help. I do pay for my Adobe with a student discount because I went to Suffolk for like 2 years part time. Like I took like 4 classes at Suffolk Community College, and that was like 10 years ago, and I still have my
Still got that EDU
yeah, that
account?
EDU account ain't never going away because you could just because it's a community college, they kind of you don't need to graduate. It's just a thing you do.
Mm.
So, you know, like I still have my EDU email address from going to Suffolk where I did not get a degree, and I use that. So like that translated kind of a little bit more because that's how I edit stuff and also just like do graphic design for work and things. It's like $13 a month or something. It's super cheap.
Wow,
Um,
that's a lot cheaper than it usually is.
yeah, no, you got to get that student discount. Got to take advantage of
What the
whatever
heck?
EDU you can get your hands on.
Yeah, I miss my EDU accounts.
Listen, I'm taking a
They take them all
yeah,
away.
well, Suffolk does it. So take a class at Suffolk
Yeah,
Community College, and then you just have access to an EDU account forever.
I'm gonna have to do that. So this doesn't really have anything to do with the podcast, but they don't really teach like any type of like Photoshop or anything anymore in high school.
Oh, really?
Every Yeah, they just at least anyone that I know, they don't learn about that at all. And I remember because we used to take computer classes because it was
Hmm.
like the new thing,
Yeah.
and they would go from Excel all the way to Photoshop. And now I don't know how to use any of that stuff anymore, really. Besides like things I teach myself, but I wish I was still good at Photoshop. That was fun. I used to make like squirrels with angel wings and whatnot, send them out to people, and that was like part of the class. You're like, okay, make an animal, flying squirrel.
Oh, yeah, I
Yep.
didn't ever get that kind of training. It's interesting because like I know how to use Photoshop, but I'm not like really good at it. Like I'm not great at photoshopping stuff. Like in the traditional sense of like what you just said, like put wings on a squirrel. I missed all those classes. Like Suffolk did have a Photoshop introductory class, but I didn't take it because I was focused on layout design and stuff.
Oh.
Because like and when I talk about graphic design, it's mostly layout stuff. Like I've laid out magazines, but I don't,
Oh, I see.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
create like graphics for stuff because I don't know how to do that because I never learned how to do that. But I could lay out a magazine. I could lay out 100-page magazine and do it really well. But I don't know how to
Mm-hmm.
do some other
I
stuff.
know what you mean.
But also, I can
Honestly, though.
change colors. Like I can do the basics of Photoshop. I use it all the time for those sorts of things because you have to crop things, you have to edit photos a little bit, fix up some stuff. Um, and that is mostly what I've used Photoshop for. And that's honestly what I'm still using Photoshop for, to like crop a photo and like print it out. Or one time I made what I do, one of my Instagram posts was like one of those fancy carousels where there's like multiple photos. Like it's not just swiping through photos. It's like, they're all combined a little bit. So it's a
Oh,
continuous
I see.
story. You know what I'm talking about? A carousel.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that in Photoshop.
Oh, that's
So like
cool. How long did that take you?
uh it took me a while. I had to watch a video.
Yeah, you have to watch the videos. That's what I do. Finding the if we got to find the video under 5 minutes.
Exactly.
If any, they like to talk about the app for 30 minutes about how to do one thing,
Exactly, yeah.
usually, and then some random dude
Hmm.
with no mic that has the perfect video, 3 minutes
Pretty
long.
much, exactly. It probably spent more time trying to find a correct video that the instructions made sense on than it took me to like really actually do that.
All right. Well, let's get back to talking about your
Okay.
photography. Okay, so in general,
Hmm.
I know you mentioned that you kind of were just told to start taking photos, but now it's your medium.
Hmm.
Um, what made you fall in love with photography?
Um, I'm not really sure. I think there's probably a couple things. I think I always liked to take photos. I just wasn't into it. I'm in my 30s. And I'm very on social media. And so my social media presence is, and I can look back on it, so I know that I always did like to take photos of stuff, when I was traveling or when I had specific interests. I used to be really into comic books, so I used to take photos of the comic books I would get and stuff. I've always been really interested in taking photos and sharing them. When I started as my job, like I said, my job got me into photography. The tribe basically was like, here's $1,000, you need to buy a camera. Those first couple pictures were like okay. We have our big powwow every Labor Day weekend, and that first year I had the camera, we had a very small powwow. It was like it was during COVID. It was probably like the
What
peak
was
of
it, the COVID
yeah, that
powwow?
COVID powwow, that small COVID powwow. I took photos, but I had the camera for like 4 months at that point. I'd only ever used it in auto. And I took the photos and they were like okay. And then no one even complained about it. Everybody was like, oh, these photos are really nice. And then but I didn't know how to use my camera at all. Like I said, other than like putting it in an auto mode. I didn't know anything about composition or anything like that. So I think looking back on it, I think those photos are okay, but they're very beginner. And then once at some point I was like, I want to, how do I make my photos look better? I'm seeing other people have really good photos with the same camera that I'm using. How come I'm not like figuring? How come mine don't look like that? And so I think I fell in love with photography just because I wanted to get better at it. I was like, this is a skill that I want to learn. And and then I just kind of fell in love with taking all the photos. Um, once they started to look good, and once I was learning more, and then there's this other aspect of it where mo- I'm gonna say 99% of the photos I take are of Shinnecock community things going on. If it's my cousin's baby shower or if it's powwow or something like that. Like all of that is Shinnecock stuff. And despite growing up on the reservation, I really liked to be inside. I was an inside kid. So I didn't, for most of my life, just kind of didn't go to a lot of things, you know? So with my
Mm-hmm.
camera, if I'm going to all this stuff and taking photos, there's just so many people on the reservation who I've known my entire life, pass in a passing way. And now because I'm taking photos of everything all the time and I'm always out because I'm taking photos because I'm going to the basketball games, I'm going to the preschool graduation, I'm there's a spaghetti dinner on Friday and I'm gonna be there. And the person who organized it was like, "You're gonna be there with your camera, right?" You know? So like because I'm just always out and about and taking photos, it's like I've made so many more connections within the community that I've been raised in my whole life. There's just all these people who I didn't know that well. And now I know them so much better now because of my camera. I'm just documenting everything and everybody sees me all the time and everybody more I think more people know me now and I know more
Mm-hmm.
people because of my camera. So I really love that making a connection with people through my camera. I'm also kind of like awkward and shy in real life, and so like it's really awkward for me to walk up to a stranger and like talk to them, but if I have my camera, that's like different. Like cuz then it's like I'm taking a photo but then I'm also like talking to them and just in general about whatever. So that's that's one reason I think I really like photography and why I like taking pictures of like events and people. Like I don't know, just taking pictures of landscape sounds like more of me just not talking to people. So, you know, it's been a way I guess to help me get out of my shell too, which is nice.
Yeah, that is so interesting.
Hmm.
I feel like the generations a couple older than us would be like, oh, everyone's always on their phones and using them to take
Hmm.
you see people at concerts, everyone's on their phone,
Yeah.
but in a way for you, it's kind of helped you connect and get closer to your community
Yeah.
by having a camera and taking pictures of
Yeah,
people.
Hunter,
It's like the opposite of what people warn about you.
that's why I tell you to come to stuff all the time, Hunter.
I know.
Me,
Sometimes I just don't want to talk to these
well,
people.
I mean, yeah, but like they're your people, Hunter. You gotta know them. Um, and and also I feel like okay, so I have this joke with my mom. My mom will talk to people and they'll be like, "Oh, I talked to your daughter. She's so nice." And my mom's like, "Why does everybody say that about you? Why aren't you nicer? Why don't I think you're that nice?" And I'm always like, "Mom, I'm universally loved. You don't get it. Like everybody loves me." And also, I think it's just because like I take pictures of everyone. Like, you know, uh, Shinnecock and I think just anything in a community when you have a bunch of people, not everybody gets along. Like I don't think that's a Shinnecock thing. I think
Hmm.
it's just a thing when you go places within a community, and because I'm trying to be like so unbiased and I'm like taking pictures of everyone, regardless, of whatever. Like there's people I got beef with. And you know what? I got some really
Yeah.
great photos of those people, even though I got beef with them. So you know, it's helped a lot. I might have beef with them, but they still know that like, I take good pictures and I will take a good picture of them and I won't just ignore them and I'll talk to them and I'll give them a chance to like say their story because I think to an extent with my photography, um, there's things I want to say, but I kind of just have an idea that I want to show other people's stuff, and so everybody knows that about me that I'm taking photos for all of us to use. Like I'm taking a couple hundred photos at something and I'm giving them to everyone. Here's the photos, please use them however you need. Um, and so
Hmm.
that's been one of those like helpful things within the community and stuff like that.
Interesting. Well, for people who don't know, I, although I'm from Shinnecock, did not spend most of my life here, but now I am back.
Hmm.
So I didn't know a lot of people.
Yep.
I knew, like, in general, who everybody was.
Take photos of stuff if he doesn't like what's happening. Like if there's no kids he likes in a play, he might not take photos of the play. And
That's
so I
messed up.
don't do that. It's like I don't, I got asked to do something, oh, this person's organizing this event on the reservation. I don't like them. I'm still like I still show up and take photos because that's my job and I like to do it. you know? So
Hmm.
um, it's kind of that sort of situation for me. And also I think Hunter, if you came to events and film stuff, because we have people who film stuff, but they don't do it as much, like Marcus. he knows how to do stuff. But then, like, as soon as I was like, I'm gonna learn video and I want to interview people, Marcus started telling people that I could interview them, even though he's a photographer, he's a video person. So,
That's what he does.
yeah. And then, every once in a while, I'm trying to teach him as a video. It's not going well because I don't want to edit anything. So, but like I said, if you were like, if you had come with me to Miss Gloria's when I tried to do a video for Miss Gloria, and it probably would have ended up better, then you would have met Miss Gloria, and then she would have told all the Smiths, like, oh, this Hunter kid, he's cool, because, she got like 800 grandkids and stuff. So,
Not many cousins.
you spend some time with her, and then she likes you, and that's kind of what um, that is my personal belief on stuff. You just put yourself out there, you go do some stuff. I went to through my photography, I ended up going to South by Southwest last year. And one of the people who I knew was coming to South by Southwest was someone who was my age. I grew up with her, and we never talked when we were in Southwest. But when we were in South by, I was like, Sierra, it's so interesting. This is probably the longest we've ever talked, and we've known each other our entire lives, and we grew up down the street from each other, the same age, and we've never talked because of like preconceived notions. But like, you're cool. And she was like, yeah, you're great. And now like we're friends, and this is a person I've never talked to. And I've always thought, oh, that family has animosity against me, and maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't know. But like now I'm in with them because I was like, I'm just going to Austin. I don't care if I don't get along with this person. And it turns out I did get along with that person. So, that's how community works, I think. And none of that would have ever happened without the camera.
Art brings people
Yep.
together. Truly
Yep.
does. Maybe one day. Honestly, my goal, the end goal for my videography stuff is to never have to touch a camera again.
Just be like a director.
And yeah. Um so hopefully one
I
day.
feel
That's what I'm
that.
hoping
Well,
for.
that's the thing with me is
Um
I don't want to do any of the like when I record stuff, I'm always like, wow, this would be so much more fun if I was just supervising it. like
mhm.
if I was just directing this. And I need to I'm trying so hard to convince some kids to learn video so I don't have to do it ever, and they can do all the work and I'm just supervising them.
Yeah. It is a lot to have to do it
Yes.
all by
Hmm.
yourself, cuz like just going out and we were talking about like your social battery can be so drained. Then you have to go and now listen to everything, make sure it's
Yes.
good, relive it, edit it all, make sure it's nice, re-edit it because you messed up somewhere. Um, it's a lot to do for one
Yeah.
person. So I know how that
Yeah, it's
feels.
a lot.
Uh, it is a lot. All right, let's get back to the art
Okay.
aspect. Um, let's talk a little bit more about your event photography. Um, this is a question about how during an event, really. So events are often very fast paced and things are always happening, um, not necessarily when you expect them to happen.
Hmm.
So, how do you make sure you capture the key moments while still keeping um, your artistic perspective while everything is kind of just happening randomly?
Um Well, I think I just spend a lot of time walking around stuff. And I'm always like ready and primed to grab my camera. So
Mm-hmm.
I, I don't know, and I'm always just kind of like looking around. I know for example if there's a dog at wherever I am, there's gonna be some pictures of that dog. And if there's a baby throwing a temper tantrum, there will also be some pictures of the baby throwing a temper tantrum. Like I'm just kind of like always just looking around to see what's going on. Like it's important to pay attention to like the main stage or whatever. So if it's like powwow, yeah, dancers are the most interesting part of it. But even if you're up on stage, there's normally something else going on that you can see from on stage. Or, even if there's just a lot of like I want to say like very human moments. Like I think I've been on stage at powwow and like yeah, there's dancing going on, and then I might like look over my shoulder and there's like someone a mom braiding a kid's hair. You got to take a picture of that too because that also like tells the story of whatever it is. So for me, I just know I'm always trying to take as many pictures as possible. Honestly, it's helpful. I shoot with mirrorless, so um you can kind of what do they say it press and spray, like I can just take a ton of photos, and I can I don't
Press and spray.
I've never used a DSLR camera like Jeremy's camera. It seems harder and it seems like you have to think a little bit more. And I'm just like snapping photos nonstop. You know, I'm gonna say like what's something I did recently that like wasn't a powwow or anything, but it was, you know, I don't know, like Friday, like this Friday is a spaghetti dinner. You know, I'm not just gonna take like a photo of the volunteers. That's the thing I'll do, but I always walk around and try to show like that's the other, it's showing the perspective. I try to show the perspective of if you were there, and there's like 800, you know, there's so many different areas where you could be sitting if you're somewhere. So, you know, I'm walking around, I'm taking pictures from in the crowd, I'm taking pictures from up close. You know, just kind of like all kinds of stuff. For me in event photography, it's unpredictable. So you just got to be ready. You just got to take like hundreds of photos all the time. You know, I'm taking a couple thousand photos of an event that was like 4 hours long. Just got to do it. Or that's my
Mm.
philosophy.
So well, you mentioned the storytelling. One of my questions
Mhm.
is, especially something like event photography. How do you use all your skills to really portray a narrative into what other people ended up seeing?
Well, that is something I'm trying to learn more to really tell the whole story. But um, one of my favorite storytelling tropes that I use in terms of photography is to I like to take pictures from behind people's backs because then you can
Hmm.
see the perspective from them, you know, so you can see what they are looking at. It's not like obviously if I have a camera, it's what I'm seeing, but like if I'm taking a picture, technically I'm taking pictures of the back of people's heads all the time, but that's normally because there's something very interesting going on in front of them that they are looking at. You know, if it's standing on stage at powwow, if it's um, you know, what am I thinking? If it's powwow, if it's someone having a talk or something like that, or we had the protest at the tree, you know, I have a couple pictures from behind people's backs. I think that's a big storytelling aspect because it's showing the whole picture kind of. You know, it's showing them.
Hmm.
You can see them, you can see their body language, but you also, I think it's just important you can see what they are looking at. What is so interesting to this person and you can see it in the background, you know? So that is one of my favorite things to do. I mean, it's great to take pictures from the front, and I normally do that. So when I'm taking photos, I might take, you know, the same exact person, take a picture of them from behind, and then try to get in front of them, especially if they're performing. I always think that's interesting when people are like talking and performing or something to get behind them because like they might be on a stage or on a pedestal or something, and you can just kind of like oversee what they're overseeing. Um, you know, I think it's important to I don't know, you just have to kind of show the whole picture and paint as much of a picture as you can. Um, I I never considered myself to be artistic like visually. Like when I was growing up, I was more of a writer than I was like an artist. Like I don't draw or paint or any of those things, but I did really like to write. And like when you write, you have to like set the scene. You know, you have to explain as much as you can of where the person is or, you know, wherever the character is and, you know, what you're seeing and stuff like that. You have to build a scene. So in photo, you know, I'm trying to do all that. I'm trying to show the crowds. I'm trying to show how big or how small, you know, what people are looking at, what people are doing. One thing I like to take pictures of is like people's hands. So when people are talking, I know I'm very expressive with my hands when I talk. So you know, I try to take pictures of how people are showing their hands because I think that's important for body language and stuff. Also, because photos are just like a snippet of something; it's not a video. So, you know, if you have a video of someone talking, you get this full message. But you know, if you're taking a photo of someone talking, how can you got to express their body language in a certain way? You got to get those photos and all that kind of stuff. So I'm just trying to take as many photos as possible to show as many
Hmm.
views as possible. And then it is a lot harder to like cull that down. Like, what are the important ones? If I need to post this on Facebook, I can only on Instagram, I can only post up to 10 photos. You know, how do I tell this whole story of a 4 day long powwow in in maximum of 10 photos? But ideally, even better, it's like to do it with even less photos. I think if I can,
Hmm.
which I'm learning that. So
That's interesting. I feel like you're almost becoming known for the behind the back
yeah,
photography.
I think
So
that's my it's my staple right there. It's my go to. my
Yeah.
signature.
What happens if someone is suffering from male pattern baldness while you take a behind the back photo?
Then
I'm
their
kidding.
then their baldness
Uh,
is on display, baby.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't Photoshop stuff really like that. So, your baldness is out. Sorry, guys.
You're gonna have to start giving them toupees, edited in. What does your process look like to get ready to take photography of an event, especially in a big event like Powwow? How do you plan for the lighting situations and the layout of the venue?
um, Ideally, if I can look up what the space might look like ahead of time, that's like the first step. For example, I shot a wedding last summer. I've done one wedding, and I have another one coming up. So maybe like one wedding a year because weddings are hectic. And so I spent a lot of time researching the venue, trying to see what it looked like, and then trying to see what like photos were taken at something like that. Like not just like what wedding photos look like, but what wedding photos look like at that specific venue. So like you have that, and I think I do that with a lot of things. So if I'm ever shooting like a new type of thing, you do spend a lot of time just like Pinteresting, like whatever it is. So you have that aspect of just kind of like preparing yourself. I probably should write a shot list, which I don't do, but or I've done it and then completely forgot to look at it. So
It
normally don't
happens to
do
me
it that
sometimes.
much, but you know, I you have this idea of like what kind of photos you kind of want to do, and then I've started, and I don't do it as much as I should, but I try to prep myself and write everything down. So like write down what equipment I think I might need. With lighting, I use flash, I use on camera flash, and I'm still learning it. Like flash is terrifying. I don't know how flash photographers do stuff. But so, I'm trying to learn flash, and so there's this aspect of like, do I need flash? How many flashes do I need? Do I need multiple cameras? I have a couple cameras. I have like 3 or 4 cameras. So, but they're all also all different. I have 4 Sony cameras in my possession right now, all new Sony cameras, and every single one of them is different. So, which cameras am I going to use? Kind of what gear do I need? I know for a fact if it's a big event, I'm like triple, quadruple checking that I have everything. I definitely overpack in terms of like batteries and memory cards. Um, I don't know. I think just a lot of research goes into it. A lot of like prepping, watching videos of other people, like going back to weddings. Just you do spend a lot of time like watching videos from wedding photographers and how they do stuff. And then, most of the time YouTubers and stuff have way more money than I do for equipment. So like, okay, how can I do this exact same thing with less money? I'm broke, so I can't have this $2,000 flash. How do I do this otherwise? Um so, there's that. It's just a lot of prep and looking at things and trying to get inspired as much as you can, I guess.
Hmm. Well, that kind of segues into another question.
Okay.
Nowadays,
hmm
what kind of inspires you to keep making photography, art, and I guess what's inspired you to go into video?
Um I think with photos, I I try to well, let me think. Okay, when I started, it was like I want to take a photo. I want to take good photos, and then as I got more into it, I'm starting to look at other people's photography and how people tell stories. Humans in New York is like the best. I think that's such a great guy who takes those photos and tells people stories and stuff. He's interviewing people, so that's difficult. But like, recently I was in the Barnes and Noble and I bought a book called Koreatown Dreaming. I'm looking at it right now. It's like a photo book on like some Koreatown in like LA or something, and how you tell that story. So like looking at other people's work, looking at National Geographic photographers, those people, um I'm on I'm really like to be on the internet. So I'm on Instagram a lot, I'm on YouTube a lot. I'm seeing how other people are kind of doing things. Um I think with video, I started I decided to try to do video, which is still a thing I'm working on. I literally never have yet to post any video that I've done for the tribe. Haven't done a single one of
Hmm.
these videos yet. Haven't posted them. I don't like how they look. But with video, um one of the reasons I wanted to start learning video is because I thought it was a maybe another more interesting way to tell someone's story. It's one thing to take a photo. I think like, okay, let's say for example, if I want to do a spotlight on somebody, I would love to just take a portrait of somebody, but a lot of times like those portraits end up being accompanied by a news article or something. I've taken a photo for one of our Shinnecock guys. He's a welder, Gordon. I took photos for him knowing that they were going to be in a newspaper, and then someone else, like a reporter, like wrote his whole spotlight on him. I know I said I was a writer earlier, but like journalism isn't the like my expertise kind of. So, if I wanted to do a spotlight, if I personally want to do a spotlight on Gordon, I think it'd be easier if I made it a video. Rather than have to like sit down and like try to write a story, write an article. That seems hard. But like maybe if it's a video, then it's really just him explaining it his own self. And then I think like I don't know, I think video is kind of cool. And I work hold on. Um I work with a production company, and they're videographers, so they're predominantly videographers, and they like push me a lot to be like, hey, we're going to hire you to help us, film this thing, you're going to be a camera operator. And I think seeing like knowing that like, oh, I filmed that shot. you know I didn't really do anything. I don't know
Hmm.
how the camera, I don't know all the settings, I didn't do any of the editing, I didn't set up the camera, but like, this is my shot that I shot of this performance, and I can see that, and then like seeing it being finished, edited in a really nice way, I think that kind of also made me interested in video. Because it was like, oh, I did that, or like that was my camera. Because sometimes we use one of my cameras. If we just like need another camera for filming, like I'll go with them and I film something. I'm like, wow, that was my camera. That came from me. I should learn how to actually do this rather than just like supervise the
Hmm.
camera. So that's kind of I think why I kind of got into video a little bit.
It's interesting. So we mentioned storytelling a bunch,
Mhm,
and while you're talking, I remembered something about storytelling photography that I really enjoy. Now, I don't really love
mhm,
photography in terms. I prefer video a lot
yeah,
more. But there is one thing that I love taking photos of, and it's a little weird, but I think people's desks and bedside
mhm.
tables tell an incredible
Oh,
story,
yes.
even like their coffee
Mhm,
tables. And it's especially when I was like a little younger, like the college students, and then you meet people who have like their life together and everything's nice and clean. But with the college kids and people who are like just starting out, you can really like
mhm.
see what they do just by their desk or their table. Is there anything like that that's like mundane but you think tells an amazing story?
Yes. So when I first got into photography, so I was not nearly as good as a photographer as I am now, and maybe I should try to return to this project because I never actually did it. But I had this idea for a photo project um, that was called like Grandma's House, because I think um like elders, like any elders, any old people, their house kind of becomes your shrine. You've lived in this house forever and you just have all your stuff, you raise your kids here, you're still living here, and you decorated a certain way. I always i think that like elders, they watch TV, they sit in their chair in the living room that's in a certain spot that like no one else is allowed to sit in, and it can't get moved. So I had this idea for a photo series of like taking pictures of people's like houses or like their living rooms, specifically like elders, like grandparents and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. And I tried to do it. I didn't really try to do it, but when I like had it in my head, like when I first started the idea, one of my friends had inherited his grandma's brownstone, and he hadn't like changed anything. So he invited us over to a housewarming party, but it was like still very much his grandma's house. He just like put a big TV in the living room, you know, like he hadn't got rid of anything at that point. And I tried to take some photos, but it was like really early on, and I had never taken photos in that kind of a condition. It was a house. It was really dark in there. I didn't really have any lights because why would I bring a bunch of stuff to a party, you know? But I did bring my
Yeah.
camera. So I had this idea of like grandma's house, of just like showing, people's lived in houses, and how specifically elders kind of like set up their houses. I personally come from a family of people who, there's like hundreds of pictures of people on the walls. My grandfather's house had, in his living room, the whole long wall in the living room was just like photos of everything. So, I really like that. I like that my grandfather had all that stuff in there. I like that, when I went to my friend's house, the brownstone that he had inherited from his grandma, was this black lady in Brooklyn, who bought that house. She was the first owner of the house. The house was like 100 years old, and she like was the first person to live in it. And it was, she had photos of like civil rights movement stuff in there, like she saw
Wow.
Martin Luther King speak, and she had the flyer for it in there. And I thought it was so cool being in his house and seeing, wow, this is like a time capsule. And it was also hilarious that like his PlayStation was in the living room. Like I said, he put a big TV in there, but didn't get rid of anything. So it was just like all his
Yeah,
grandma stuff.
put the flat screen
Yeah, it was
in.
all his grandma's stuff, and then like a 50-inch, or it was probably really big. It was like an obscenely large, like 60-inch television with his PlayStation in the living room, surrounded by all his grandma's things. you know?
Sometimes you got to do it like that.
Yeah, so I had that idea, and I'm still kind of like working on it. Of like, I think it's a good way to tell a story. I also kind of want to take. I just kind of want to take photos or videos of people like doing their thing. I think especially as Shinnecock people, as Native people, so many people don't know Native Americans. They have this very weird sense of who we are as people, And I
Hmm.
think some people think, I don't know. I was at a party recently, Hunter, and I had my camera. This was like a friend's party. A white friend who I met in college, and someone asked me, "Is the reservation semi-normal or not semi-normal, semi-modern?" And it was like,
Yeah, to
sir,
get
I
a little
literally, I
semi-modern.
literally just told you I'm a photographer. Also, I live in Southampton. Do you think I don't have running water? Like, I almost hit
Mm.
Calvin Klein with my car one time. He lives down the street. You think I don't have running water? You think I don't have internet? I have on glasses, sir. Like, I clearly live in a modern society. So, like, I also had this idea of like taking photos of people doing their things. So, to some people that is
Hmm.
kind of traditional stuff, but like, I'm friends with one of these res guys, and he's like a kickboxer. That's not native anything. That's just a thing he does. So I kind of had this other idea of, a photo. I have so many ideas of photos, like photo series that I should be doing that I'm not really doing, but
Hmm.
I should probably get into that. You
I really
know.
like the elder one,
Yeah.
although it's harder to work with elders because they don't like people seeing their stuff a lot of the time,
Yeah.
but
Sometimes. Yeah.
sometimes they do.
Yeah. Exactly. Like
It's like 50-50,
Yeah, like I don't
honestly.
need to be in their bedrooms. Like, just let me take a picture of
Hmm.
you sitting in your chair in your living room, surrounded by all your stuff and how you built your life. And how I feel, not to say their houses are messy, but they're like just cluttered because that's what you can do when you've lived somewhere for a long time. You got a lot of tchotchkes. So, you know, how did you make your house with all of your little things and your themes and things like that? So that's a thing that I've thought about doing that I think would be fun.
Yeah, and then the uh, the Shinnecock people doing their things. I have a couple of thoughts on that. So
Hmm.
the Shinnecock reservation's pretty good, pretty nice compared to a lot of other
Oh no,
reservations.
yeah,
Which
100%.
so I could see why some people are like, "Do you guys even have water?" And some of them don't, but
Yeah.
we're kind of on the nicer side over
Yeah,
here.
that was the thing.
We're the bougie
Yeah, the more
res.
I talked to that guy, I was like, dude, I live like in a normal place. Like I live on Long Island. And he was like, oh, well, I like went to some reservation in South Dakota. And I was like, did you have to drive for 7 hours in the middle of nowhere to get there? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, that's what happens when you live in the middle of nowhere. you,
Did a dog rip off your license plate?
you don't have a lot of things when you live in the desert. But,
Yeah.
I live in the Hamptons. So, you know.
Yeah, we live in Hampton. It's like one
Mhm,
thing, like we got
mhm,
moved,
mhm.
but like we're still in the general area in a way
Yeah.
that we were originally from, and a lot of tribes did not have to like restart
That's the other
everything.
thing. Yeah, like we're water people. Like we didn't so much get moved. It's just that we got secluded to one specific area. So like,
Yeah.
but this was always like our ancestral land, like all of this, and this is habitable land. When
Hmm.
those out west tribes got moved to uninhabitable areas, and yes, you can make those areas habitable now, but they don't have the resources. But like when we're already in a space that's very habitable and very populated. Like it's different.
Hmm.
Um,
And so even on social media,
mhm,
and in real life, like people don't know what like anything is. And I used to wear this straight out of Shinnecock shirt when I was in
mhm,
college. And I remember this. I was it was like one of the most horrifying, surreal moments of my life. I got in an elevator, and these two white girls got on. I think they're like a couple floors above me, and they knew who I was, and they're like, "What's that on your shirt? Shiny cock?" And I was like, "What?" And then they started like dying laughing at me. I'm like, "What the hell? Shinnecock? I'm Native American." And I was like trying to explain it to them,
mhm.
and they had no idea what was going on. And I was like, "What the fuck just happened?"
Yeah.
And then they got off, and then someone else got on, and they're like, "Oh, Shinnecock?" And I was like, "How the hell do you know Shinnecock?" And they became one of my friends. They became one of my friends,
Yeah.
and I was like, "This is just so
Yeah,
bizarre."
I've had that shiny
Um,
cock thing happen to me too. And it's so weird. So one time when I was in college, a bunch of my friends came out for powwow, and we're driving. One person was driving, and like maybe she just never listened to anything I had to say. Like she didn't know what was going on, and she was the one driving. And you pass the signs on the highway that say Shinnecock, like not the monuments, just like the traffic signs that
mhm,
say like
those
you're
shines,
approaching like
the
the canal and
canal.
stuff. And so there's all these signs saying Shinnecock on the highway. And she was like, "Oh, shiny cock," and I was like, "No, it's Shinnecock." And she said it a bunch of times, and then finally, and like we had this back and forth where I was like, "It's Shinnecock," and she was like, "It's shiny cock." I'm like, Shinnecock. And then finally, like, someone was like, that is her tribe. That's where we're going. Like, stop being disrespectful.
Yeah.
And it was like, and then I went to Greece. I went to Greece a couple years ago, and it was part of a tour group, and I had a Shinnecock hat. And one of the guys was like, "Why are you wearing a hat that says shiny cock?" And I was like, "It says Shinnecock." And then we had this exchange too. And then finally I was like, "It's my fucking tribe, guy." And he's like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know." And I want to say, like, I want to be like, "Okay, listen, just don't, like, I shouldn't have to explain that. If I'm saying this is how it's pronounced, then just accept that is how it's pronounced. Like, you don't need to know what it is." just also, you can tell this is an ethnic thing. Like, it's
Yeah.
just don't purposely mispronounce things. Like, think of if I was Asian and I was like, "This is how you say this word," don't just mispronounce it.
Yeah, on purpose
Yes,
over and
I
over
shouldn't.
again. It's not even a big
Yeah, I
change.
shouldn't have
I to
to.
E.
Yeah, people are so weird about that. Yeah, so that is one of the things I always kind of feel weird wearing shiny cock stuff in public. It's like, "Oh, this is shiny cock," and people.
Yeah. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, or okay, so we have an old website that the tribe used to have that doesn't work anymore, and like I think we lost the like URL or something, and some fake Indian organization, like I'm saying India from India, got it, and there's like porn on it, and someone was like freaking out about it, and I was like, I think it's because it says cock all over the website.
Oh no.
I don't think we're being targeted because we're native. I think because the word cock is everywhere.
Yeah. The targeted ads.
Yes,
It's messed up.
we're being targeted
Yeah.
because of the vulgar word, not because we're Native
Yeah.
American.
Yeah, so I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
But it does happen like on the Mouse House TikTok
Hmm.
sometimes. Actually, on a post about your show I put on
Hmm.
there, every once in a while people will comment. They're like, "What the hell do you mean shiny cock community? Like, what does that mean?"
Yes.
And I had to delete the comment because I'm like, God damn it! I want to explain to them. I'm like, nah, not today. So I just delete it, and then everyone else is like normal about it 99% of the
Yeah,
time.
most people are. I think most people just like get it. And then some people are just like, yeah, very weird about it. My uncle used to say, shinnecock, like think of your body, shit, your shin, your knee, then your cock. So that's how he would tell people to pronounce it. He's like, yeah, shinnecock, and like
Shinnecock.
touching his leg and his crotch. He's shinnecock, because people do ask how to say it, and so he would be like,
Mhm.
it's your shin and your knee and your cock. So that's. But like
Great.
the
Now,
Boys and Girls Club spell it differently. I think on some stuff because that makes sense.
really?
Yeah, like if you go downstairs in the basement, they have a mural down there, and it's spelled like COX,
What the hell?
Cox.
Why would they do that?
Yeah.
Shinnecox? That's even worse.
Yeah. That's how they spell it.
What the hell? That's the craziest thing. That's one of the craziest things I've ever heard them do. But I
Yeah.
guess um, our name is a bad word. Don't
Yeah.
say it.
So
No, that's
who
stupid.
knows?
Um, Shinnycocks. God dang. All right, let's talk about your show a little bit.
Okay.
Um, I believe how many sections is it split up to? Is it split up into 5 different sections
Yeah, I think
or
it's.
four?
I wrote four captions. So there's
Four captions.
four like little themed areas, and then there's just a bunch of random photos all over the place.
Hmm. So could you walk us through a couple of the sections and the story you're trying to tell and who's in it if you have the memory of exactly who's in everything? But
Yeah. So the first one of the sections is about overlooking Shinnecock. So for people who like aren't familiar with us and our history or anything, there's a very large chunk of Long Island that was um like land pre-colonization. So from East Hampton to where does it? From East Hampton to Brookhaven, that was considered like Shinnecock area. So like we do consider this to still be our land, even though we don't quote unquote own it anymore. And one of the pieces in that section of kind of overlooking Shinnecock is at the golf course. There's this world class golf course down the street from us, and it's called Shinnecock Hills Golf Course. Because we're surrounded by things named Shinnecock that are not ours. There's Shinnecock Hardware down the street. There's the Shinnecock Canal, the Shinnecock Bay. You know, all these just things called Shinnecock all over the place, and they're not us. And so there's a photo of our Boys and Girls Club going to this golf course, which is like I I read recently that Shinnecock Golf Course was maybe the first place like they started the US Open. Um so, we have this really big deal, one of the highest rated golf courses in the country. It's named after us, it's down the street. We helped build it. We've been historically working there forever as caddies, but it's so separate from us, and a lot of people have never been there. I don't think any of our tribal members are members of the golf course, the golf club. I don't know how golf works, but it's member.
I was actually trying to become a member, and I was like, yeah, it's invite
Yeah,
only.
it's invite only.
It's like know
Yeah, you
someone.
have to like know someone, and like every once in a while they let the golfers use it. Like, once a year there's like a charity. They let the Shinnecock golfers go up there, I think, or something like that. And golf is one of those historic sports for us. Like I said, we built the golf course. We've always worked there. Um, but the Boys and Girls Club was invited to have like a golf clinic. So they had a couple of kids that were getting taught by golf pros how to golf at the golf course. And one of the photos in that section of overlooking Shinnecock is at the golf course. I went with them because they presented them with a gift, and I'm 30. I just turned 35. That was the second time I'd ever been at the golf course, I think. Um, and you know
Wow.
what? I did not go inside. I did not go inside the clubhouse. Like, I've seen that thing my whole life. I've seen 800 photos of it. I still have not been inside of it. I was on the front porch and I was looking in, and I was like, I don't know, someone might yell at me if I try to step in there. So I have this photo of us walking up to it. These couple kids I was with, these two other adults walking up to the clubhouse. I think a lot of people maybe who aren't here, like someone like I don't want to say like Tiger Woods, but like Tiger Woods, he might not know Shinnecock is a tribe, and he's been to the
Yeah.
golf course. But when you have this whole other subset of people out in the world who, when they hear Shinnecock, they instantly think of a golf course. They don't know anything else. So that it's overlooking Shinnecock, and then and I also just like really love the photo. The closest person to me was like a little boy. He was running towards it, really excited, and that was also shot from behind. Everybody else was in front of me, and I kind of held back and took a photo. I wanted to take a picture of the clubhouse, and then there was a bunch of people in the photo. Shinnecock looking over Shinnecock, Shinnecock people looking over this place that doesn't always welcome us. Under very specific terms, do they allow us there? Um, and then the other photo in that is our trustees looking over our powwow. So I think, like I said, historically, we had all this land and now we're on this very small amount of land. And I'm not sure if people know. that like we're more than just the reservation. We're also this whole other section of Long Island, all of the space that's not ours now, but is, in our spirits. I think it's how the people say it, in our spirits, that is our land. So just kind of like overlooking Powwow, overlooking the golf course. You know, this is how we deal kind of with modern tradition. I think we frequently refer to Shinnecock Hills, which is just an area of Southampton, as stolen hills. All this land was stolen from us, but like Shinnecock Hills is right near us. Like, Southampton's a small town, but like Shinnecock Hills is across the street. You know, the golf course is across the street. So having so I was kind of just like overlooking Shinnecock, looking at these two very different aspects of Shinnecock. This thing that's ours, that we're known for, that people travel for, that is a really big part of who we are. Powwow is everyone's favorite weekend of the year. And then overlooking this beautiful world class building that shares our name. Um, so that was the first section. Um,
The U.S. Open comes back in 2026 to
they
Shinnecock
they
Hills,
do
not Shinnecock Hills.
to
Yeah,
Shinnecock Golf Course. I'm trying to go. I went
yeah,
last year.
golf.
Or the last time they went, I went to that because we got some tickets. And so
Mm.
I went, and this time I will have a camera with me.
And your press
Yes,
pass.
and my press pass, and maybe I
Get
might
some close-ups of Tiger.
listen. I think I have pictures of Tiger Woods on my phone. I think I saw him.
Oh, he's my
And
favorite.
I've also, but also I realized like golf is a boring sport to me, but it also seems incredibly boring in real life. Like you have to walk a lot as a spectator, so or you just sit at one hole and watch everybody who comes through. And then you
Yeah,
don't follow along with the rest of it. Incredibly boring. But like I said, if I can go, I'm going back.
it,
Um,
it's a super weird culture for a sporting
yeah,
event.
it was really weird. I thought the food was pretty good up there, and like I said, I still didn't even
Hmm.
go in the clubhouse that time. We were just like outside. They don't let you in. um, but yeah, so that's kind of what that is. And then for everybody, Powwow's Labor Day weekend is open to the public, and I think it's $15 to come, and it's one of the biggest powwows. That's the other thing with our powwow, and why I really like that photo is we're a very small tribe. There's I have the list. I think there's 1,300 enrolled tribal members over the age of 18 in the world. That's it. 1,000, basically 1,000 people, and we have this really big powwow. And I don't know, Hunter, how many other powwows you've gone to, but like you go to these other powwows, sometimes they're really small. They're in a yard or something like that. I've been to a powwow that's like in the front yard of an elementary school. You go to these
Huh.
other powwows, there's nothing quite like Shinnecock because we have a stage, and most places their circles just on the floor, and so you kind of have to struggle to see, and everybody's gathered around it, and you can't really see, and we're you know 5.5 feet up off the ground, um
Hmm.
overlooking. When you're up on the stage, it's so different from being down on the stage, and powwow is just so interesting. And like I said, it's everybody's favorite weekend, and we're just so proud and put so much work into it. um and that's important. So that first section, or those first two photos, are about overlooking Shinnecock and everything that is Shinnecock.
Very cool.
Mhm.
Everyone should go to the powwow. It is amazing how amazing our powwow
It's so
is
good.
compared to like our size.
Yeah, I'm on the powwow committee, and someone new joined the Powell committee recently, and I think the Powell committee, we always get kind of a lot of flack just for how we handle things. How people have ideas of Shinnecock people specifically have ideas of how Powell should be, and they don't like some of this stuff. And someone joined Powell committee, and last meeting he went, "Wow, you guys get a lot done with very little money." And we were like, "Yes, we do a lot, and we have this amazingly spectacular, one of the top 5 powwows in the country. But we don't have a lot of money, and we put on a really spectacular show for a tribe of this size. You know, I don't Gathering of Nations. Is like the other big one. Even I don't know. It's just we're definitely one of the bigger powwows, and we're one of the smaller tribes. It's really nice. I like it.
It was nice. All right. I know you have a section. I think it's titled Mothers. Um,
Yes.
can we hear about that one?
Yes. So, Shinnecock is a matriarchal society. And our, for the most part, our, I didn't say it in there, but our enrollment for a lot of times goes through the mothers. Like men who have children who with non-Shinnecock women, and they're not married to them, those children are not enrolled in the tribe. But Shinnecock women, you have a baby, that baby is enrolled. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know, just I think there's just something really special about the motherhood here on Shinnecock, and like the familiar the maternal bonds between people. Um and so there's three photos. There's a photo with one of our elders with her mother, and it's Jeremy's aunt and his grandma. And 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 Dottie Dennis, built a clan. She has like five kids, and all those kids have kids. And um, you know, that whole family is just so well known. And these are two of the matriarchs in that family, and his aunt is now taking care of his grandma. She's a lot older now, and she needs to live with somebody. And it was at a community event. It was at a fundraiser for the elders center, I think, elders program. And it was, we were walking around the res. It was walk the res. And there was tons of people who showed up for it. And she brought her mom out, Miss Dot's like in her 90s, I guess. So I really like that photo of Diane and her mother. And then another one of the pictures is my cousin, my first cousin, and her son. And she's a single mom, and she has this little boy, and it was at powwow, in their regalia. And I come from it's funny, I come from a family, we don't really do regalias that much. And Anishawan is our like regalia person in our family. Like, she's the one who goes all out, and she knows all those things. And she made her, I think she just had a ribbon skirt on, but like, she made the ribbon skirt. I think she had a hat on, and she helped make that hat, make the band on it probably. And she probably made a lot of her son's regalia. um it's just this picture of the two of them, and it reminded me a lot of the picture of Diane and Dot. It's mothers with their kids and their moms. And then there's another photo of my mom and Jeremy's mom at mom's house talking. And they're both mothers. And Denise is not really related to me, I don't think, but I consider her to be my aunt. She's an auntie to me. Zayden, he's not my nephew. He's my cousin's kid, but I'm his aunt, and this matriarchal society that we have, that we built, that's so important to us. It's just these relationships you have with your kids and your mom, and your own mom, and that you have with other moms. And just in general, a lot of people are friends because their kids are the same age, like,
Mm.
you have these lifelong friendships, or you end up with these friendships because, like, your kids, you needed a play date, your kids needed a friend, and there's another kid their age. So, like, me and Jeremy and Kelly are all around the same age. Our moms did, really get to know each other because they worked together at the school. But, you know, I probably also knew Denise growing up because maybe Denise tried to get me and Jeremy to be friends when we were little or something like that, and we were the same age. So, having, I think it's just all that bond that people have with each other, in terms of just like the mothers, the women, they are the leaders of our tribe. This is, I'm Miss Dot probably really raised Miss Diane with a lot of really good, I'm just trying to think of, like, what's the word, um raised her with certain beliefs, and it's still carrying on. Not everybody is going to take care of their moms when they're old, when their mom and they're, getting up there. Um, but this is a very important aspect of kind of like who we are as Shinnecock people. We take care of each other, and it's really important to foster these bonds. And just like you know, moms are the best, man.
Yeah, my mom's pretty cool.
Yeah, my mom's is
Um,
my mom is hers. She's alright.
yeah,
She's cool
she
people.
has her
Yeah,
moments. She has
yeah,
her
moms got their
moments.
moments. So,
Hmm.
but I think that kind of stuff is like important, and I really like that. Their
Hmm.
motherhood and the bond you have from motherhood.
Hmm. I actually hate the rule of that.
Oh,
If I had a kid with somebody and we're not married, they aren't part of the
well,
tribe. But I understand
well,
it.
you know what?
I just was like, I'm just like, damn it.
It's so interesting when I tell people about that rule. Like, if I tell outsiders this rule, they'll be like, "Oh, that's so unfair." And it's like, yeah, but we also do blood quantum, so it's actually a lot more fair
Yeah,
than blood
yeah,
quantum.
yeah. Back in the day, you couldn't tell. The only way to know is through who gave birth.
Yeah, exactly.
Whose kid is that?
Or no, just like other out west other tribes, like Western tribes and stuff. You have to like be a certain percentage, and we don't do that on Shinnecock. So we just don't, and it's the unwed fathers is the main thing. But I have cousins who their grandma was native, and they're on the rolls. But like, if you were Cherokee, that's not going to happen. Your grandma was on the roll,
Hmm.
but only your grandma, no.
Yeah.
So we are differently a little different. So I think it's just, in general, I don't like enrollment rules at all. I think they're holding
Hmm.
us back, but we are a
It's
lot more
interesting that you get
lenient.
married in to the tribe also.
Well, yeah, kind of, like, to an extent, and it's interesting. You know, I think you just have all these people. Like, my cousin married a Dominican woman, and everybody knows Lisa, and she's just like part of everything now. And she's a Dominican girl from the city. So, but she's married in, and it's all very interesting. Oh, so you're not from here, so it's so funny because you don't know. Like, there's so many Shinnecock people, and the black people of Southampton are so insanely intertwined. Like, just
Hmm.
the families we have. Like, my cousins, the her son's father is a Shinnecock, is a black guy from town, and his uncles and his sisters and everything. Like, everybody knows a Shinnecock person has some connection to Shinnecock. We all have family and stuff like that. I feel like we're all just one big old family. Just in Southampton in general. For the people who like are Southampton people. Maybe not the
Hmm.
new Southampton people, but them old school Southampton people. Like, everybody knows everybody. And we're also weirdly connected. It's sweet though.
It's very cool. Very small community. Even outside of Shinnecock, everyone still knows
Yeah,
each other.
no, like, listen,
But we only have 2 more months of that though,
yeah.
and then it's
Oh
all
yeah,
over.
now yeah, it's gonna get crazy. But like, if you went to like the Martin Luther King breakfast, for example, like at the Methodist church, it's like, oh yes, these are Southampton staples. Like, Southampton's a small town, and like, everybody knows what the pharmacist. You know, he's like a
Hmm.
town trustee or something. Like, we all know Bob Grisnick, and he shows up to stuff. Like, because it's a small town. He be going to MLK breakfast. And then some of the local black churches, and then there's always a bunch of Shinnecock people there, and we all just come together. That's just.
Hmm. I have oh, I think you have a couple more sections we need to get
Mhm.
through of
Oh yeah.
your thing. So I'll save my next question for later.
Okay.
It's a stupid one, not a
Okay.
stupid one, but it's more of a fun one.
So the matriarchal.
So then we did the matriarchs, and
Mhm.
then there's the one that everyone's like, forgot the name of it, but a lot of people are performing.
Yeah. So Shinnecock people could talk, man. We got a lot of thoughts, and we are performers, and we will, however we got to do it. I think those photos, there's a couple different things going on in those photos. There's the Thunderbird sisters, who are like old school folk performers. They play guitars. I think the photo I took of them, they were probably like singing some Bob Dylan song or something. And then there was a picture of the Youngbloods, which are our drum group. It's an intertribal drum group, but it's Shinnecock led. So it kind of just means like most of our members are Shinnecock, but you know, other people who aren't Shinnecock, who are rolled in other tribes, member natives, other places can be in it. And then it's also funny because there's another photo of a rapper on that section, and he's also in Youngblood. So he's a traditional native drummer and singer, but then he also raps. Um, and then who else is in there? Oh, there's like a photo of my Aunt Marion, who's in her 90s, and she was performing at a some sort of, it was something for old people. It was like a old, it was called Melodies and Memories, where all the, it was a bunch, and it was just a bunch of local old, it was all women, but they were like, this is open to men, they just don't want to do it. And it was all these women, all these older women who live in this general area of the Hamptons, coming together and tell their stories and do little plays and skits and performances and stuff. So there's a picture of Maya Marion up on stage. I think she was the oldest person there, and everybody was in love with her because she's the best. And like, there's a picture of her, and then there's a picture of these three sisters talking, and I thought it was really fun how Brianna kind of set it up, because all of those were performers, and then she paired this other photo with of the Gumses, and they are artists. And we were at a social, and they all do different kind of art, beadwork. Some of those art they do is like traditional, some of it is non-traditional. But they are crafters and artisans, and it was them just like talking about their life. And I think they were unprepared to go up there, and they spoke, and they did a really good job, and they just talked about their lives and all those sorts of things in their work. I just think we Shinnecock people, we're very proud, and I think if you give us a microphone, you have to take it away from us, because we can
Mm.
just be up there.
We start
Yeah,
yapping.
we start yapping. We got, listen, we got stories to tell, and we got music to sing, and we got all kinds of stuff to say. And I think even like the shy people, give me an opportunity. I'm gonna say some stuff. I'm gonna tell you a story. It might be about struggle. It might be about prosperity. It might be about traditional ways. It could just be about what I'm up to. But we can talk, and we can perform. And there's so many different ways we can perform. Like I said, Chucky's a rapper, and he's also a traditional drummer. Um, and I think he's a pretty good rapper, honestly. So and he does it in a very, I don't know. I feel like there's conscious rap, and then there's like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I went somewhere recently, and there were all these native hip hop artists, and I just felt like there was so much about a message about being native, and Chucky does that, but then also Chucky's just like rapping about normal stuff that people rap about, and
Mm-hmm.
I really like that aspect of his music. He's kind of got a couple things going on. He's got a really good, like, he has a solid flow, and and he was probably performing at um at an event. I think it was a film festival, a native film festival, and he was like during the intermission, and he's really great. And I take so many pictures of Shinnecock people doing stuff, giving speeches and talking, and we have so many stories to tell, and all those people were up there telling a story. Even if you're singing a Bob Dylan song, it still has some sort of message that is very timely and connects to us, and that Bob Dylan song is still part of our stories, and that's what that section was about.
One of my favorite things with the powwow
Mhm.
is hearing young blood
Yes.
singers, grass song, intertribal,
Yes.
and then they just start going.
Yes, Youngbloods are
It's
great.
like iconic.
Yeah, it's so
It's
good. It's so
iconic.
good. I'm forever trying to get them all to like re-record some music in a studio, and like have some photos. Like have a
Mm-hmm.
group photo. But I think like the older people, the older men. Well, you talked about bald spots. I think the older men with the bald spots are like, no.
Don't you dare take a photo of my bald
Yes, you
spot.
cannot have an official photo. But the younger guys. I think I can get all the younger guys. Like, come on, guys,
Yeah.
let's do it. Let's have
The
a
new
photo session. Go to the studio.
be the men keeping the young blood singers
Yes.
alive.
Um. But yeah, so I love that. Young Bloods are great.
If you haven't heard the is it Reverend I think it's Reverend Mike,
Yes.
he does the announcements. If you haven't heard Reverend Mike announce to the
Oh no, that's
people
Charlie.
on the drums, that's Charlie.
Charlie Smith, Sachem.
You're right. You're right. Why do I think it was Reverend Mike? I don't know.
They are
But
Smiths.
the way he announces them, I don't know what it is. It's just
I know
perfect.
he's so good.
I'll just always remember that rest of my life. For I've been to 25. This will be my 27th POW I've been to, and I just always remember hearing young blood
Yeah.
singers, intertribal, and then they just
Yeah.
go. Start singing.
Charlie's a great MC, and the young bloods are so good. And it's a small, it's intertribal. These guys, the more time I spend with my camera, like I said, it's given me just like more access to things that I didn't have. And I hang out. Not so much hang out with them, but if I go to Skimitzen and they're at Skimitzen, I'll just hang out with them the whole time. And Skimitzen's just another powwow, but
Mm.
like I get to see how they all kind of come together. And I don't like the little kids are learning and stuff. So like my little cousins who are like 10 years old, like they drum with young blood sometimes. They get on the
Hmm.
drums and they're maybe not singing, but they're learning like the drum parts. And it's interesting. I gotta get a picture of these kids. There's two little boys on the reservation who have their own drum group, and by little I mean they're like in seventh grade. So let me not act like they're that little. They're getting big, and
Is it like 13?
yeah, they're like 13, and I've known them since they were in kindergarten. I was like their kindergarten tutor. Um, that's the thing, Hunter. I've worked a lot on the res, so like I worked in the after school program as a tutor when I was in my 20s, and those kids, they were my little kids in kindergarten, and now they're like in seventh grade, and they have their own drum group, and it's called Heedy Creek, and it's just like the two of them, and they're so proud of them. But they're also like part of Young Bloods. They perform with Young Bloods, but then at powwow sometimes it's just them on the mic, like these two kids. It's like awesome.
Hmm.
It's very cute.
That's cool.
Yep.
And then we got the next section.
Hmm.
It is like it's an event. Events they're happening, but it's like focused on people.
Yeah. So Shinnecock events are pretty much all organized and volunteer work by Shinnecock members. So, and we're also more than powwow. Like powwows are a big thing, but then we also have all these other smaller events that are both like maybe sometimes open to the public or sometimes not, and they're very like community based. And when you go down to those events, if you go to the Oyster Festival, we had our first annual Oyster Festival recently. Trial run, see how we could do this, and you go down there and it's just all, it's just people volunteering, and they're organizing, and they, you know, the guys who probably harvested the oysters, it was part of their job, their paid job, but then, who's to say they had to be there on a Saturday and shuck oysters and, out in the heat, and cooking oysters and stuff. Or um I think we just like the Oyster Festival is one. There's four photos in that section, and the Oyster Festival is one, and that was our first annual one. But the other photos are of these yearly things that we do all the time, where the community comes together. Um, big or small. We do this thing called June meeting. It's kind of like signifies the beginning of summer, the beginning of I guess like harvest festival, harvest time and stuff, and it's a time for us to tell stories. And so there's a picture of Reverend Mike, who he's one of our like ordained ministers here on the reservation. It's four, I think there's like four or five of them, and but Reverend Mike, you know, in our Presbyterian church, which is a not everybody's Presbyterian, not everybody goes to church, but that church is such a central part of our community in general. And June meeting is literally just a time to come together and discuss things in the past. And like I think that photo, he's holding up this book that has all these stories in it, and he was probably telling a story that like my great grandma like wrote down for a June meeting, 80 years ago about what she remembers from June meeting as a kid, and how big of a community that is. And there's another photo. We celebrate this thing called Nanawa, which is it's our community Thanksgiving that we all come together the week before Thanksgiving, and it's completely volunteer. People for like it's funded by the tribe. They give money to buy the turkeys and stuff like that, but like the people who cook the turkeys and cook the fry bread and samp and macaroni and cheese and collard greens, you know that's all volunteer work. And there's a woman who's been heading it since my whole life, probably before, for a long time, Brett. And she's, every year she says she's gonna stop doing it, and every year Rhett's in the kitchen supervising. And like, coming together. Or Veterans Day is another one of the photos in there. We honor our veterans. Native Americans have a very long history of serving in the armed forces, and it's very important that we celebrate them every Veterans Day. And one of our holy men, who's not like a, a modern religion holy man, is just kind of is like traditional, and he's cousins with Reverend Mike. So it's Reverend Mike, Mike Smith and Johnny Smith, and they're cousins, and they're both like our holy men, and they preach to us, and then our volunteers, at these other events, like feed us, and I'm sure Johnny's not getting paid to give us a prayer at Veterans Day, but he's gonna give us a prayer at Veterans Day, a prayer and a story, and I think it's just so interesting because I think so many people think we're just powwow, and it's like we're not just powwow. We got all these other things going on, and there's all these times we come together so frequently, and it's all just so important to who we are as people and community, and that's what that section is supposed to be about, is showing how we come together as a community in all these different kind of ways, and we organize things together, and you know everybody, all the people who are cooking at Nanawa, they absolutely love Shinnecock with every fiber of their being. They're feeding all these people for free, and it's a free meal, and everybody comes together, and so much like love goes into all of these things. And if you listen to Reverend Mike, and you listen to Johnny Smith, and they're so incredibly passionate about. I think I wrote in the caption, the Lord and the Creator. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's all such a big part of our culture, this aspect of community. Shinnecock is a tribe, yes, but we're also a community, and I think there's not a lot of places that are like us, like other reservations, unless you're looking at like Mashpee, Wampanoag, and like some of our sister tribes who are these smaller communities. Like we're a tribe, but also we are a community, and it's so hard to explain this concept of community because I think everybody thinks they know what a community is, but like I don't think there's just so there's just nothing really like Shinnecock, I think. And that's just what that
Agreed.
last section
Very well
is.
said.
Yep,
We're one of a kind over
one of a
here.
kind, except for like I said, maybe a Pequots.
Yeah, true. I guess we're about 1,000 of a
Yes.
kind because we got 1,000 of
Yep.
them.
Yeah, thousand of a kind, exactly.
Well, the podcast we're getting up there in
Yeah.
time, so I have a couple more
Okay.
questions, but we can kind of speed through them, the important
hmm
ones. So once you have all of your photos that you take
hmm
at an event or of your portraits or whatever, um, what's the turnaround process look like, and like how do you keep a balance between getting things out quickly, if you want to post something on the social media right after it
hmm
happened, and how you keep the quality in the edits?
Um, I mean, I've kind of really nailed down a very fast, like exactly how I do it. Um, I have a program that I use to cull photos, and I just go through it really fast. I use like two or three buttons on my keyboard, and I'm just like clicking through them real quick. Oh, I like this one. I like this one. I don't like this one, so I'm not gonna click, and I'm not gonna mark it. And then um I use presets to edit. And so preset is kind of the easiest way to describe it if you're not a photographer is kind of like a filter. Like if you have Instagram filters and stuff, it's kind of like that, except you can edit everything about it. So you can edit the shadows and the highlights and the lowlights and the colors if you want to make the yellows more yellow, things like that. Like you can really go in and change a lot, but it's kind of just like a template to edit on. And there's certain presets that I use a lot. Because there's a certain look to them. I prefer, I think my style of photography, the coloring and the lighting is called like true to life. Like I like bright, real colors. There's this thing in photography called like dark and moody. Where people like, I don't know, it's just like this kind of darker overlay on a photo. Or like light and airy is the other thing. And and I feel like the whites are always very, very white and washed out, and everything's so light and I don't want to say dull, but I really like all the bright colors. Um, and if, especially if it's something like a regalia or something, like I want them colors to pop. So, I
Mm-hmm.
have a couple things there's certain things that I really like to use, or a certain look to my photos, and it's really easy, especially now with the basketball games. just use the same exact one. Or like, oh, I edited this photo really well and it's in the gym, so all my settings were the same. Like, I'm just gonna copy and paste this preset from like an old album to a new album and stick it in there, and it's pretty fast. But like I said, I have a couple presets that I like just because I really like the coloring on them, and I've been using them for a while. It's pretty much just one that I use all the time, and I'm starting to try using a different one. Um, it's a similar one, but it's not quite the same. And then I I'm when you said about like posting them, I'm still kind of figuring that out. Like, I gotta
Mm-hmm.
learn social media marketing. Cause like, there's only 10 photos you can post of something, and there's all these things that I've taken photos of that I haven't been posting, and I really do gotta get better at that. Of just, remembering to the sample photos. I like to just send people the album easier. Or like post the album, but you can't, I don't know, is that the right thing? So I'm figuring I'm figuring that all out. But I know I have a certain style, especially for events. I haven't really done as much portraits as I have done previously. When I first started, I was doing a lot of portraits. And I don't do them as much, so I think editing those takes me longer. But like, if it's an event, especially because it's an event, I don't feel the need to like do too much in post production.
Mm-hmm.
I consider myself to be a documentary style photographer, so I'm not editing too much of a photo. Other than the lighting, just to make sure I like that the lighting and the coloring looks really well. But I'm not really like airbrushing stuff out. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
that helps a lot. As long as someone's eyes are open, and they're not like one eye open because they're in the middle of blinking. I think the photos look pretty, good, and I have gotten much faster at editing stuff. I think the last basketball game I took probably 2,000 photos. I ended up with 150 of them, and I had them edited and posted within the day. So,
Wow.
'cause I just got quick with
Yeah, that's
it.
impressive.
Yeah.
I honestly, so I can't believe I didn't mention this before, but I used to have this giant Instagram
Hmm.
account for NBA
Hmm.
news, and I'm just realizing that for now, although the season's like over for high school
Yeah.
basketball, I used to like make like layouts and stuff of like the scores, who won,
Hmm.
like their stats. I'll send you one of the posts that I
Okay.
made. It might be interesting. You'd be like, oh, this is kind of cool. You might not want to ever use it, but then you just need to post one photo of that, and then you can have like a whole album. Might be 'cause then people can see who won, and like maybe the coolest photo
Yeah.
of someone dunking could be like the beginning thing
Yeah.
for social media.
Yeah. I think the last time I posted a picture of the basketball game, I only posted like one or two photos, or it was like, yeah, this is
Hmm.
fine. And then I don't honestly for that one, I probably didn't even post like, oh, the link's in my bio because it was like, you'll find it or not. Like,
Hmm.
like, but also I take all those photos and I might post a couple photos, but I mostly just send it to the basketball team. I'm like, here it is. I send it to like one of the kids on the basketball team. They send it to the other kids, and that's all I have to do. And it's up to them. Then they're posting it.
Then they gotta
Yeah,
do
then
it.
they all
Yeah.
do the rest of the work.
I spent way too much time on that Instagram account
Really.
back in the day, but it was so much fun doing like news and stuff. That kind of helped me
Hmm.
in journalism. And then I would like, call my friends and be like, "Do you guys want to write stories about this women's college basketball Final Four thing?" And
Hmm.
we do like things like that. That was
Yeah,
fun.
I'm trying
Um,
to get, like I said, I'm trying to get the kids, or I'm trying to get some kids who maybe want to take photos of like stuff, like come to the basketball game with me, and then here's the camera, and then just like figure it out, or like I'll give you some hints, but like you do this stuff, and then
you press this button to take the photo.
listen,
Good luck.
what did we do the other day? We had the midwinter social, and I've been trying to get like kids to do it, and I can't, like anybody like 25 to like 12, who wants to do this. And a couple days before the social, I was talking to one of my friends, one of my cousins who's like 30. He was like, "Hey, I wanted to talk to you because I wanted to learn photography. Thought maybe you'd be the person, you could help me with like equipment and stuff." I was like, "Well, if you're coming to social, I will give you one of these cameras." And then, like, I showed him how to like the basics of it, And then, but I set up all the settings, and if you look at that Midwinter Social album, the photos by me, there's like 40 photos, and then the photos by Sean, there's like way more than 40 photos. And Sean took, and
Well,
they were good, but it was my camera, so I'm trying to get this with the kids, you know,
hmm
convince some kids. I'm trying to get them early so I can train them up to help me with work, like real work stuff.
child labor laws have been hurting our country
Exactly,
and tribe for years to come.
exactly. Just
Time to put in the
exactly.
work.
Let me get some 14-year-olds to handle all the social media for the tribe. That'd be great because I don't want to do it. So, you know,
Yeah. No one wants to do social
you
media
know,
anymore. It's
I don't
dying.
want to do that.
To be honest. Well, my next question, since
Mhm,
we're talking about technology,
mhm.
I know you love to stay up to date with the current photography, technology,
Yeah.
and techniques. Um, do you have any resources like websites or I guess maybe even like a YouTube channel for people who are just getting started and you tell them be like, oh, look at this person. You might be able to find out more information on your own.
Um, I don't know. I think it depends. I think like YouTube is a great source, and then there was YouTube, but and then there's also Facebook groups. Like I think Facebook groups are so
Mm,
helpful for certain things, especially if it's a product. Because like how I learned really about how to use my camera was joining a Facebook group specifically for my camera. Like not even a photography group, just like I had a Sony A6000 that was just the camera I started with. They gave me $1,000. I needed to buy a bunch of things, so I got a very cheap $500 camera, and because I needed the other $500 for other things. So, I had this camera that I use, and I joined a Facebook group, and I just have learned so much about cameras from being in this Facebook group of seeing how other people use them. I think there's something about seeing what people can do with exactly what you have in your house. You have
hmm
you it's one thing to have a A6000, and then in the kit lens, and then trying to figure it out, and there's another thing to be like, wow, those are photos that people are taking with the kit lens, or these are photos that people are taking with a different lens. Um, so there's that aspect of that. Um, I don't know if there's anybody. The other thing is I only know Sony cameras because I only just started a couple years ago. So, you know, I know there's always discussion of Canon, Nikon, Sony, which one's better. I don't know any of that stuff. I can't tell you Sony or Canon is better, but I do know Sony products because that's just the one that I happen to have. And I know some photographers who review Sony projects. Actually, the one that I started with, who like I that is how I learned about cameras in general and how they kind of work, which how to use them, like the basics of it, was this guy on YouTube called Arthur R. And he reviews a lot of just in general Sony video camera stuff. And I think he said he got into it because he got married and he had a kid, and he wanted to take like home videos and home photos of his kid. And now he has this like really big extensive YouTube channel, but his wife, you know, also has another, like his wife has a YouTube channel. It's like vlogging. So like they're learning together, like they both have all the skills, and she's using all those skills to make family content, of them, going on trips with their kids. And he's using all those skills to give reviews and how to, like, oh, this is the like this is the lens that I like to use, and it's interesting to go to his wife's page and know that like they're using this equipment, and so you get to see it like in real world.
Oh.
Because I think a lot of times when you watch like YouTube videos, it's like they're staying in controlled environments, or a lot of the reviews I watch, as soon as it gets into very deep tech stuff, I like skip that part of the video. Like just show me how to use it.
hmm
Tell me how it feels in your hand. I want to know. I don't need to know these like very weird little tech aspects, or like the certain ways they test stuff. There's a weird chart people take photos of, and then you can see all the details on this chart, and like that doesn't mean anything to me. How heavy is
That
it?
YouTube channel seems really cool.
Huh?
That YouTube channel seems like a really good idea. Someone to like describe the cameras, say if they're good, and
Mhm.
then their wife is actually using the cameras to make content.
Yeah,
That's
and
a
like,
really good
and it's
idea.
interesting because a lot of the videos he's like, yeah, so like I took this out. Here's some like test footage we took with my wife, and like his wife is obviously not talking on her channel. She's obviously not talking about, oh, this is the A7 IV, with the 10 to 18 lens on it and this filter or whatever. But like the fact that I know he's reviewing this and he says this is the camera that I like to use, and then you can actually see it in real time, like being used in this other way, not just like theoretical how you can use it, just actual, this is how we use it and this is why we have it. Um, I think that's a good one. I really like Arthur R. That's how I learned. Arthur R. He uses Sony APS-C, which is the smaller cameras. Um, I don't even know if you use the bigger cameras, but that is Arthur R. I went like all the way through his YouTube when I started. I learned so much from that guy.
Hmm. It seems very
Yeah.
helpful. So I guess we got two or three more
Okay.
questions. So, what is it like to be an exhibiting artist at Ma's house? Or how's your experience been? Even.
It's been very interesting. I think I don't know. When I started taking photos, it was just for work, and then it was never like I don't know. I think at some point I was on a podcast and on the podcast with my friends, and they were like, "What's your photography goals?" And I was like, "I don't know. Maybe it'd be fun to like have like a show somewhere, like be in a gallery." And like I just said it as like that's a thing photographers do, and then it's real.
Mm.
That's crazy. Like it also makes me feel like an artist rather than just a photographer because I think there's a difference. Um,
For sure.
and like not to say my friends don't do art, but like they do client work. When I work with my videographer friends, like we're going to the Paris Art Museum to film someone's performance. But like having a show is like, oh my god, I'm the person doing it. Like I'm not doing a technical thing. It's like, oh, this is art because I don't always feel like it's art.
Hmm.
It's social media posts. I'm taking photos and stuff, and it's also interesting. It's also crazy to see stuff printed. Um, it's one thing I can look at my photos all day on the computer and on socials, but then like to see them on a wall, it's like that's a crazy feeling. So I think how it feels to be a Moz House artist is I'm an artist now. I guess like that's official. I'm not just a photographer. I'm a artist.
That's interesting. I
Yeah,
remember the first time I felt like that.
yeah. It's like interesting. Yeah, it's like you could do
Hmm.
things for fun, and then like when it's like when you see it in print, um, or like hang on a wall, because like I don't know, we didn't talk, but like one of the oh, you know what it is? One of the reasons I decided to get really good at photography is because I'm the graphic designer for the powwow, and I always have to make the powwow program, and I always have to like struggle to find a photo to put on the front page, or like photos for it in general. And I was like, when I
Hmm.
started photography, I was like, I gotta get good so I can take powwow photos, so I can make a flyer. That's what it was. It was like I need to not hunt down for photos to make this powwow flyer every year because they're my photos now.
Yeah.
So it's
Out of
yeah, it
necessity.
literally was a thing out of necessity. Like that was literally a thought process I had. I was like, if I get good at photos, then I don't ever have to ask anybody else for a photo. I don't have to try to find anything. I don't ever have to deal with any terrible photos, bad quality. Because like as a graphic designer, you're always you're so concerned about photo quality all the time. And I'm always, oh, does anybody have a good photo of this? And then it's like, some photo they took on their phone that they also took a screenshot of, so it's all pixelated. It's like not good. So like now I get all the good photos, so I just put them on stuff, and so it's like it's one thing. I think the last year's Power program I was the last this last year, that was my photo on the front, and there's a lot of photos that I took throughout it, and then and it's like cool to see it in a book, kind of like in a paperback magazine, and then it's another thing to see it like on a wall, and it's like there it is in a
Hmm.
frame on a wall at a place for art. Because I have another. I keep calling this my first solo show, but it's not really. It's like my first solo show at a art space because my other show is at the high school, and it's just like not
Yeah.
to say it's just, but like it's at the high school, and so it's not like open to the public. It's at the high school. The photos are hanging on the wall in the library, and just the environment that it's in. And by walls, I mean the glass walls. So like they're not on a white wall. They're you look at them, you can see the library behind it. And it's like so different to see it on a wall at an art space, and it's all mine. It's crazy. Just a
It's quite sounds like quite the
yeah,
feeling, honestly. One of my pieces of art is actually in one of your photos
yeah,
in the
yeah,
show.
exactly. Yeah, your photo.
Yeah,
Yeah, your photo. Your bag is in the photo.
yeah. I was like, oh shit, that's my bag.
Yeah. Well, like
I'm in the show
I'm sure
again.
it was crazy to have your stuff at that show, like on the wall. Be like, wow, I made this, and it's hanging up.
Hmm. The I don't like I mean that show was
Mhm.
fine because everyone's kind of the same skill
Yeah,
level in terms of making. I mean, obviously there are a lot of people who are a lot better. I'm kind of new to
yeah,
it, um, but with when you do a show with a bunch of other people, sometimes you're like, oh my god, these guys are so freaking good.
yeah.
Look at mine. Like what the hell? I did a video for the Mocha
Mhm.
lights, and everyone made these. So they asked me to do something specifically. They're like, okay, make can you make this for it? I'm like, sure. And then everyone else got like free roam to do these amazing like 3D light shows and like animation and stuff. And so I was like looking at all this. I'm like, what the heck? Why did they make me do this? Look at mine. So
Yeah.
I was like pissed. I was like, God damn it. Everyone else has a different skill set. Like I don't do animation or
Mhm.
3D light shows or
Yeah.
anything. But I just had like a short documentary movie thing on the wall where everyone else had. It was projected onto the
Mhm.
library. I was like, what the hell? I was so mad. I was mad at them and myself. I was
Mhm.
like, I didn't know it was gonna be like this year. I should have like went to the one last year's to see what was going
Yeah.
on. Uh,
Well, I know, for example, outcropping when Jeremy had that. I That was the very beginning of my photography journey. So it's so funny because like I used outcropping to learn photography. Like I didn't have anything there, but I was there all the time with my camera taking photos in that building of people doing stuff, of like people giving tours in the opening and like all the events we had in there. And my mom had a piece in that, and it was, her my mom is like a crafter, so she had this like crafting, this box she made. It had a story. It was like a cigar box, and she put a whole bunch of stuff in it, and it was cool. But the whole time she was always like, I cannot believe I'm in this art space with David. There's a giant David Martin photo painting on the wall. David Martin's such an
mm-hmm,
amazing painter, and his thing is like right next to hers. And she's like, why am I in this show with David Martin? Or Herb Randall's, this he's one of the elders of the tribe, and he lives like down the street from Maz. And he had me type up his like resume, like his art, like his like CV, and he's just like done so much stuff. He's like 80 years old, and he's been taking photos for like 60 years. He's been a professional photographer for 60 years, and he's so accomplished and stuff. And and his photos were like right next to my mom's stuff, and she was like, "Why is my stuff right next to hers? Like this is ridiculous. Like I'm a librarian who likes to craft."
mm-hmm.
And so I've been in those, like, this is my first solo show, but it's also like only like my fourth show as a photographer. And so like I don't know, I had that other thing in Brooklyn. Although I had a gallery in Brooklyn that Jeremy curated, and I actually never got a chance to go see it when everything was there, but I saw pictures and I was like, whoa. Like these artists, they are so serious, and also because like I'm a photographer, but I'm not an art photographer. Like Jeremy's an art photographer, but he's building a whole set and he's building all this stuff and he's thinking it all out, and I'm just like taking pictures of stuff. And it was so crazy to like see my photo, which was it was literally a family photo that I took of my family on Mother's Day. And so it was like my mom and my cousins and my aunt and stuff like that, that we took together, but it was still like a family photo that I had taken of us next to like, people's amazing paintings. It's like, what is going on? How did
It
I
it's so weird being on this way with other
Yes.
people. It's nerve wracking because you can't not. It's like you can't compare art, but like you can compare
Yeah.
art yourself to other people's
Yeah.
art. You're like, damn, this guy's better.
Yeah.
Look at those brush
Yeah, you're
strokes.
just like, oh my God, he put effort into this. We were at the beach.
Mm,
I took a photo of all of
mm.
us.
It's like I did my
Yes.
best, and yet look at this guy. This guy didn't even
Yeah,
try.
I think my style of photography is so like, I don't know, it just feels so different than like other. Not
Mm-hmm.
that it's bad or anything, but like even when we went to outcropping, like there was a bunch of photos and I remember them and they were like so just like stylized. You could tell the shoot took like a long time. And I was like, well, I'm at powwow. Walking around with my camera.
Yeah.
but it's a good one.
But that's a lot how like yeah, documentary
Mhm.
photography and
Yes,
videography really works. It's like, well, I'm here and I do have a camera. You can't
exactly.
really just pick your shot. You can pick your shots, but you can't like wait for your shots. You kind of have to be shooting already.
Yeah, yeah. It's like very like different. You just got to be like ready and like be walking around and like just
Mm-hmm.
have like you have like idea of what like the kind of stuff you want to take photos of, and then obviously like sometimes like I'm asking people to pose and things, but like the sun's gonna do whatever the sun's gonna do, and I don't have a a big giant flash and reflectors and everything.
Mm.
So
And we live so close to the beach. I don't know if you guys have tried taking photos of the beach.
it's
Listeners, photos and videos of the beach are
they're
hell.
terrible, people.
Yeah. Don't even try to get audio
I
quality.
hate it.
Rip
It's always
that.
windy, and then like the
Mm.
wind comes off the water, and everybody wants the water in the background. So then like their hair is getting shot forward because the wind.
Now there's sand in
Yeah,
my
and then there's
lens.
sand.
There's
I don't want to put anything down. I'm scared to touch stuff. Yeah. Photos at the
yeah.
beach are the worst.
Yeah. That was the first video I had to make for Ma's
Mhm.
house. The first resident I ever worked with really wanted a short
Oh, I
film
remember that.
shot at the
I remember
beach.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. And she wrote an entire like script and everything
Mhm.
for it, and we did it. And I was like, this is just. And we picked the windiest
Yep.
day where it got cloudy,
Mhm.
and so we had to end up making it black and white
Yeah.
film with no sound.
Yeah.
It was. I was just like, I don't even know if I can ever do this again. I don't know how they do it in the
Yeah, I don't
movies.
know.
Like how they, I know they didn't go to the beach for Dune, but I was just like
Yeah.
watching Dune. And I was like, what? I was like, God damn, all this sand is giving me
Yeah.
flashbacks.
Oh, that's it.
They're just having to work at the
It's
beach.
so bad. I took some photos for Little Beach Harvest. There's if you when you go Hunter, you gotta go in there and you see these two big murals on the wall they're these huge photos that I took. And like when we were doing it, the person who was kind of like she wasn't directing the shot. I was in charge of it, but like the person who had hired me to do it, she was there. She had all these ideas, and it was windy and it was overcast that day, and I kept being like, if this was the real world and we had money, we just wouldn't do this today. Like,
Yeah,
just wouldn't be
yeah.
happening.
Wait till next
Yes,
week.
they would just
Listen to the
they would
weatherman.
literally just wait until it was better, and we're just like struggling, and it's windy and it's cold. It's like everybody was cold and it was windy and it was overcast, and so like everything was so weird, and like I think it was stormy, and we were at the ocean, so like the waves, like it was just was white and gray everywhere, and like she was like, "Well, what can you do something about it?" And it was like, "Well, what I could do is do this next week,
Yeah.
do this
I
tomorrow."
watched a YouTube video on how to shoe at the beach. It's not helping.
Yeah, it's not helping because these conditions are terrible.
Yeah.
It's so bad. Yeah, I hate taking photos at the beach.
Yeah. Well, a little tangent there,
Yeah.
but we've gone down to our
Mhm.
final questions. Is there anything that I should have asked you about that I did not?
Mm, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Nice.
I think we discussed quite a lot of things.
We did.
A lot.
And now for your final
Yes.
question, as we pass the 2 hour mark, do you have any questions for me after being asked questions for 2 hours?
um, Hunter, when you gonna upgrade your stuff so you can make some fancy videos?
Uh, I don't know. One day. I don't know if I even want to. Honestly, upgrade any of this stuff. Like, I think so there's like the Miles House stuff, and
Mhm.
then my video art has been kind of taking a large back seat. And but I've been working on this documentary for the past 3 years
Mhm.
of the powwow, and so this is the last powwow. This upcoming one's going to be the last one in it,
Mhm.
and it's been shot with this stuff
Mhm.
that I have now. So I don't think I'm going to change it until after. And then I'm thinking I'm going to start renting
Oh my God,
nicer,
yes, renting.
really nice like cinematic cameras because I want to make like uh like script like I want to write like I don't want to do another documentary
Mhm.
afterwards. I want to do like a kind of want to do like a scary
Mhm.
thriller thing. Um, not like a horror movie, but more like a
Mhm.
thriller, like a short like 20-minute
Yep.
one, 20 to 40 minutes. So I would just rent for like a couple the days that I need it, and then so that's what I'm thinking, and then but who knows? I definitely would like another camera for like everyday use. Uh, I do some event
Mm-hmm.
photography, not really event videography of just music, like music
Mm-hmm.
stuff on stage and music videos. So I've always needed something small and easy to move around and whatnot, especially in venues
Mm-hmm.
like that. Because if I go to New York City, I don't want to carry around my entire camera and then go to like the after party or
Yeah.
whatever. Um, so I'm looking for things that are small, keep my eyes out, and so that's why my phone. Jeremy actually told me to start using the phone. That's how I started doing that
Mm-hmm.
again instead of my current stuff. But for my own personal practice, using the phone for like music videos has always been good. Unless we hire someone else to be the videographer, then they bring their stuff and I just direct, which is I prefer
Mm-hmm.
that honestly. So I guess come September, I'll be upgrading my stuff if I'm not completely broke because that's when the grant runs out. So we'll see.
Sweet. Listen, I got so many ideas. I've today, I right before this, obviously not for this, but I was testing out using one of these cameras as a webcam. Um, and I was,
Mm,
because I want to use it. I want to use it for tribe stuff, but like the debates are coming up. For like election cycle, like the elections coming up, and so like we're gonna have a debate, and like we always live stream it like from someone's terrible computer. And I was like, I wonder if I could use this camera as a webcam. Use that and plug that in with
mm-hmm.
Zoom. It was really nice. So and that's someone's little this little camera that I'm borrowing from somebody. Um, but yeah, so I'm just waiting for you to.
It'd be cool though.
It'd be nice. Like,
To have
listen,
like
the
yeah.
my dream, honestly, this is my dream for the tribe. I want to train up a bunch of people to do stuff, and there's a kid who right now is going to audio production, like tech school. I also went to this. When I was in high school, I went to tech school part half day my junior and senior year for audio production. Not necessarily because I wanted to do it. I just didn't want to be in school, so it was seemed like the easiest thing you could take. And but this other kid, he's learning audio production, and I'm gonna take a wild guess and say he's also learning how to do live stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I need to convince the tribe to give me money to buy the equipment, and then I need to convince the tribe to then pay him part time to do this. But like, um, oversee like the meetings and have like two cameras set up and like two microphones, and he's just like live switching the cameras and stuff. So like, if someone's talking on the mic, then the cameras focus at them, things like that. Um, so I'm trying to like, I think that'd be so cool if there was just like someone who did that. Like I know like churches like to like live stream their like the nice churches and stuff like the live stream stuff. And like I've been in a Methodist church. I've actually never seen the live stream, but I've been to the Methodist church for stuff, and I know that guy has like obscene amount of equipment. Like he's sitting in the back with like two monitors, and he's managing all the sound, like he's managing in general all the live sound, but then he's also live streaming it, and it's like that's so cool. And so I'm trying to learn how to start that now, so I can like convince if we have money, like, hey, give me a couple $1,000 to buy a mixer and two cameras, two microphones, and two mics.
Have you been to LTV?
I have, yes.
Had they Have you ever seen how they have that exec set up for the camera
Hmm.
thing? I think if you bring, I think you said him
Yeah.
to LTV and just they let me when I went they like let
Hmm.
me be in charge of one of the
Yeah.
shows for like the camera
Hmm.
switching, or at least not in charge, but the guy was there. Okay, switch it now.
Yeah.
That'd be like bring him to one of those 20-minute
Hmm.
show. He'd be able to do it for exactly what to do.
Yeah, or like the production company I work with, like I said, like they're videographers and stuff, but both of them also went through this audio production class that I went to, and that's how they got started with video, because they were already, doing live sound and stuff like that. But I think they do live streams sometimes for things, and like they do live streams, like they'll go to like the church in East Hampton that's called like the church. Like I think they do events there sometimes, and they'll do all kinds of stuff. They go in the city and like work weird events, and they're doing the live stream for them and things like that. I just got to get that kid. The issue is he's still in high school, so I can't like use him during the day. But he's a
Mm-hmm.
senior, and I'm not too sure what his plan is after high school. But if it's not to go to college, that kid needs to be my assistant because he has the skills. And if I could link him up with the guys at at Vision Maker, I should say that the production company I work with is Vision Maker Productions out of Hampton Bays. They're wonderful. We do a lot of great work. If you go to their website, I was on their website the other day, Hunter, and I was looking at all the stuff, and I was like, oh my God, I helped on this. I helped on this. I helped on this. I was the camera operator on this, and I was the behind the scenes photographer on this other project. You know, I'm trying to link up with them to do some stuff. I wanted to do a podcast with one of my friends where we talk about video, like movies and stuff. And I wanted it to be a video podcast also. And like I had told her all the gear we would need, and then I was like, also, it would even be easier for us if we didn't have to do it and we could just like get the boys to produce it and do all the work. But like, if I could teach that kid how to like produce podcasts, like maybe we decide we do want to do it in house and then get that kid and he's just like part of our little crew and he handles like the production aspect of our podcast, and he's
Mm-hmm.
also doing live sound mixing between like our two mics and if it's video, the couple cameras we're using. um
Yeah.
I think that'd be fun.
If I could do a podcast, start all over
Hmm.
again, I would have an extra person
Yeah.
to not have, like, doing the mobile
Yeah.
podcast is nice because like I have everything like over here. I can
Yeah.
see like everything I need to see.
Hmm.
The in person one, I had to have like a couple different programs open, make sure to constantly messing with the
Yeah.
mics. Like sometimes people lean back, now I got to turn it up. It'd be nice just to have somebody else there, and then we could start doing the video podcast. Would be easier because then they can control the
Hmm.
video if we have more than one camera. I'd like to have like a screen open, so like, remember when you posted this from
Yeah.
2004?
No,
Look how dumb you look.
exactly, like
Like to be able to
that's
do
what I'm
that.
saying. Like, I don't know, I think it'd just be so fun. Like I gotta just get these kids trained up, and then like if we get some money, because I think about it sometimes, like, oh my God, if we had a really nice community center and it functioned like a normal community center and there was like a computer lab and stuff, and then like, people could rent out the podcast studio, and all the
Oh,
equipment's
you
there.
gotta go to
I
LTV.
mean, yeah, no, we
They
gotta,
have the podcast
yeah, that's it.
studio.
Gotta use LTV. That's the thing. I gotta start taking advantage of all the things like LTV. There's a guy who works for some local radio station who does podcasts, and he's like knows my mom, and he's always like, I can help Rebecca with
Hmm.
anything. But like
Hmm.
LTV, yeah,
They're
like
dying to have us.
LTV, yeah. So you have like LTV. Where's another place? Oh, like I don't know. There's just so many. There's so many. It's so interesting. Yeah, there's like a couple places that like love Shinnecock and just like want to do stuff with us all
Hmm.
the time, and we gotta like take advantage. Like SAG Theater, the movie theater. They're like, you guys want to have an
Hmm.
event? You guys want to have a special screening
I
of something? Let's do it.
I tried to I mentioned to Mouse House a couple meetings ago. I was like, we should do like a community Mouse House sponsored
Hmm.
movies of like older movies, people who have for kids, I guess, or
Yeah.
anyone, of like movies from like the 80s and 90s that people would never be able to
Hmm.
see on a movie theater.
Yeah.
I was like, do you think SAG Harbor would help? And they're like, probably not.
No,
I was like,
they
what?
absolutely would.
Like, damn, but they probably would. I need to reach
They
out.
would. We went to they screened Killers of the Flower Moon for
Flower
us,
Moon.
and the guy was
That
like,
was a
yeah,
great
and that
time.
guy was like, hit us up. We want to do stuff with you guys. I want to do a screening of like 2 or 3 episodes of Res Dogs. um
Mm.
just like some good ones that tell a story along. And I am mutuals on Instagram with Sterling Harjo, the man who made that show. We have talked in DMs before.
Well,
So I gotta really get on that of like being like, sir, how can we do a screening? Maybe you could participate, or send a video message for us or something. And then, I've me and Bianca have talked about it of like we could probably get SAG to play this show for us and have a screening
yeah.
of like 3 episodes of
I'd
Red
be
Dogs.
willing to partner up with that to get the
Yes.
Moss House res people involved, and then
Yeah.
they're just like, who the heck is Sag Harbor? Like, oh, I know Shinnecock. So we could have Moss House, Sag Harbor, Res Dogs, or like then we can basically show anything.
Yeah, no,
That'd be easy
exactly.
mode.
Think about it.
Do
It'd
that.
be dope. I
All
really
right,
do.
we'll
Yeah.
discuss this off podcast because that'd be easy.
Yes.
Because I've been dying to have things there.
Yeah, no, they're definitely, I mean, we gotta talk to Bianca, but Bianca's a fan.
Hmm.
Bianca's a fan. So, I think we could definitely things to get done, you know? Yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta start
we
talking
might have to delete this from the
I gotta start
podcast,
talking to LTV
but
people more. Cause when I went there one time for a film festival, it was the where I took the picture of Chucky. I was there, and like Gnu was working with them, but he moved. But like the man at LTV, he like we talked for a while, and he was like, yeah, we got all these things, maybe you can come in one day and
his
do
name's
stuff.
Mike.
Yeah.
Mike loves us. He's like the executive director or
Yeah.
something. He's like dying just to have us there. All right, well, let's end the podcast.
Okay, let's end the podcast.
It's been here for a while. It's about time.
Mhm.
So now, at the end of the podcast, I like to give all the artists a chance to plug in their social media, give shouts to any like causes you want to support, shouts to anybody. Just say whatever you want, and the floor is yours.
Okay, so my socials are all some kind of variation of my name, Rebekah Phoenix. So Facebook is Rebekah Phoenix Photos. Um, no, I think it's Rebekah Phoenix Photography. And then my Instagram is Becca Phoenix underscore photos. My website is beccaphoenix.com. Um, Let me think. Where else should people support? Support
Your
Moz,
website.
support Little Beach Harvest, Boys and Girls Club of Shinnecock. I'm Shinnecock through and through. So just anything, the kelp farmers, the who else we got? The young bloods, reach out, follow my peoples on the internet and see what's going on and support us and, back us up. I love that. So that's it.
Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast,
Yes.
Rebekah. Everyone listening, you made it to the end. Please come and stop by Ma's house. Check out her show until April 27th.
Mhm.
And anyone still listening, thank you so much. And we'll catch you guys on the very next episode.